putting responsibility on someone who works at YouTube for being responsible for how someone else who uses the platform on their own website, on Steven's own website.
Have you ever had a dream that you want him to do you so much
that he sells t-shirts?
You what?
Good evening. I'm Weirdo Bad Beardo, and you're watching the frickin' news, you freaks! Just kidding, this isn't news, this is opinion. There should be a very clear distinction between the two. So, I wanted to cover the Carlos Maza versus Steven Crowder situation because both sides are representing the nuances of this very poorly.
Everyone is stupid except me.
So quickly, for those of you who don't know who or what the frick I'm talking about, Carlos Maza is a host on Vox Media. Wait. Isn't that the parody of Fox from Ratchet Gladiator?
Tonight on Vox.
So yeah, Carlos is a host on Vox who does a series called Strike Through, while Steven Crowder is a political YouTuber who talks right-wing points of view. Now, Steven has been repeatedly criticizing Carlos' series, which is all fair game. Due to this, there's been a number of things that have led to Carlos being very frustrated, and he expressed that frustration through a series of tweets. Now, while the side issues that Carlos brought up aren't really Steven's fault, they're more of just an expression of frustration, and if he's unironically saying that this is Steven's fault, then he's wrong on that part. This, of course, is talking about the fact that he was doxxed, woke up one morning to see messages saying, debate Steven, debate Steven, debate Steven, which of course isn't Steven's actual fault since he never incited any of his fans to do that. He never told them to do that. People have done that of their own fruition. The other side thing is the fact that after watching Steven's criticism of the series, people will then go on to the episode of whatever series and then write negative comments or downvote or something, which again isn't Steven's fault. If you're going to be in the public square and you're going to put out media online, you're going to have to expect that there are going to be people who don't like what you do, and Steven is not responsible for other people's actions if he has not told them to do something. However, Carlos's main point Carlos's main point is something that is completely within Steven's control. That being calling him a lispy queer and some other things that are just really insensitive. So the side things were more of just a expression of his frustration, which is something that I can definitely understand. He's not wrong for being frustrated. He's not wrong for calling Steven out, but I think that he went about it the wrong way. Now, of course, we're all human. We all make mistakes. We all make wrong decisions in our frustration, but the more mature thing to have done was probably to contact Steven directly and say, hey, hey, can you please stop talking about me like this? This isn't okay. He then encouraged his followers and everyone who saw the tweet to then go to Crowder's videos and to flag them, which if he's gonna seriously say that, and I'm not sure if he's seriously blaming Crowder, but if he is seriously blaming Crowder for the actions of his fans and then telling people to actively go and do something, that's fairly hypocritical.
No shit.
I can't say that he is exactly wrong for getting people to flag it for being inappropriate because he was saying some very hurtful personal jabs at him. That being said, there was a better way to deal with this, which was to contact Crowder directly. Now, as far as I understand, he actually has blocked Crowder. If it really is about the frustration over what you're doing and you really want to call Crowder out, the best thing to have done was to unblock him momentarily so that you could message him in the DMs and say, hey man, can you please stop doing this? Now, I'm someone who will usually defend edgy kind of jokes and the right for people to make edgy jokes. I'll defend the pug thing. When you look at the joke, it actually communicates the fact that that horrible ideology is horrible. So tongue-in-cheek jokes, I'm all good with. But with this joke, admittedly, they're really stupid. Edgy jokes that are tongue-in-cheek are funny because it's not what people think. It's actually not what's okay. But with Steven's joke, it's just a personal insult. That's not comedy, it's actually harassment. There's a very clear distinction between the two. Now, some people have also tried to defend it by the fact that he himself calls himself a queer, which, again, very different. The fact that he says he's queer and that he identifies as queer doesn't mean that someone else can now go and insult him going, oh, freaking lispy queer. Even if he was making a self-depreciating joke, that doesn't give someone else a license to then make the same joke about them. Oh, that means that I can make fun of you even though I don't know you personally and we're not friends and it's not banter. No, that doesn't work. But again, if the purpose for this was to call Steven out and to resolve the situation, he really should have just talked to him in private. If the purpose of it was also to vent vent, and that's why he brought up the side stuff. I understand the frustration and the need to vent and the need to get things off your chest, but it's not something you vent about online. That is something that you should probably talk with a friend or family and do that in person. That way, when you want to confront the situation and resolve it, you talk to Steven directly when you've calmed down. Now, Crowder is definitely in the wrong for having called him a lesbian queer and saying all those horrible things to him. But instead of apologizing, he did this whole narrative of, I'm the small independent guy and the big corporations are coming. No. Yes, a member of Vox Media is calling you out because you have insulted him personally. The guy is trying to get you deplatformed off YouTube. Again, he should have contacted you directly and actually sorted it out with you. I do see the fact that you'd want to defend yourself and say, hey, you know, you can't just kick me off the site. That's not okay. That's not cool. But to put yourself in an underdog position where it's the big corporate market, whatever, corporations, is very misinforming.
Misleading.
You can defend yourself and say you shouldn't kick me off the site and then apologize and say, I'm sorry for those personal things that I said to you. But he didn't. I really think he should have. I think this would have been patched up much easier if Crowder just said, I'm sorry for those things I said about you. Now, I know some people say, well, you know, it's just words. Words don't hurt that much. And to you, they might not hurt. And honestly, I don't care what people say or think about me. But there are people who do. And it's going, well, they should just learn to get over it. You know, that's an unfair standard that you're putting. You're putting, instead of you not calling someone a horrible insult and not attacking them personally, you just want to be able to do it and then them to just not get offended. How about you take care of your own actions before telling someone else that they should learn how to just deal with it? You're in control of your own behavior, not other people. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't genuinely express your real opinion even when it is offensive, because in order to be able to think, you need to risk being offensive. And there's a context and a time and a place for edgy jokes, even though if someone comes across it and they don't get it, that's on them, that's not on you. But those two are not equivocal to personal attacks.
Is that like a personal attack or something?
Now, YouTube eventually did respond on Twitter saying that after doing an in-depth analysis or review, that they weren't going to deplatform Steven and that getting rid of the entirety of his work over a small handful of, you know, personal jabs, that they couldn't justify that, which I agree with that conclusion.
You what?
I can see how a lot of people are upset with that, and these kind of jabs aren't okay. I'm not sure if it can justify getting rid of the entirety of his work and his platform. That being said, they probably should have given Steven a very clear warning that if he was ever caught doing something like this again, that he would immediately be demonetized, he wouldn't be allowed ads, that sort of thing. I think that's the lack of nuance that really upset people. And then after this, of course, Vox and all the other media outlets started getting involved and saying, you know, homophobia is not against YouTube's policy, they're defending this guy, yada yada. And that's when it did become a old media versus independent creators thing. It did start with one member of old media trying to shut him down. As Steven tried to play the whole big media, it's like, no, it's a single member. It is fair to say that this one individual didn't go about doing this the wrong way and has now involved big media. And again, shutting down someone's livelihood when you could have just talked to them personally is not the right move to go about it. Not just for Crowder, for everyone who works under him, everyone who relies on him for an income, all the families that they have to feed, all the mouths they have to feed. It's a pretty low thing to try and just get rid of someone's livelihood when you could have you could have contacted them directly. Now, in response to this, Carlos then went and made some more tweets, which I think were a bit of a reach and really had the wrong focus on. He didn't really realize, I don't think he's malicious. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt that he is trying to just get this sorted out. He doesn't like being insulted, that this isn't an excuse to try and shut someone down. He then made some tweets saying like, LGBT people who work at Google, you should leave. You're helping someone who sells these homophobic shirts, and I'll get onto the shirts in a second, but putting responsibility on someone who works at YouTube for being responsible for how someone else who uses the platform on their own website, on Steven's own website, that he sells t-shirts. I don't think that that's a fair thing to do. And the problem is that he's taking an issue with YouTube when his issue is with Steven Crowder. And he did say some things that were fair and that the content of what he said in and of itself isn't wrong. The fact that YouTube will say in its marketing that, you know, we celebrate LGBT people, but then on the flip side, we found out that their algorithms disencourage LGBT creators. It makes so that less people will see it. That's a double standard that they do need to be called out on. But in this context, he's taking an issue with YouTube when his issue is specifically with Crowder. This whole thing could have been avoided if they just talked privately. Now, since then, YouTube has made two changes in response, one which I actually agree with, and the other one which is just so stupid. YouTube has a really bad habit of punishing the community for the actions of an individual. This happened when Logan went to the forest and did the thing. Now, if you want to get monetized, small channels now need to get 10,000 hours of views within a certain period of months, and then they have to go under extensive reviews before they can be approved to be monetized. Why are you punishing the small person because one idiot did something completely stupid? Same deal here, where they have decided to disencourage fringe content, whatever that means, encouraging authoritative voices, which basically boils down to, yeah, we're going to promote old media news sources now, which is like, why are you giving more money to corporations, more influence to corporations? You wonder why you have such bad PR with your core audience? It's because you keep favoring what they want to get away from. YouTube doesn't seem to understand the concept that people watch online independent content on YouTube, and they go to YouTube because they don't want mainstream. If they wanted mainstream, they could watch TV, but people instead go out of their way to try and find content that isn't mainstream. This is something that I actually want to talk about more in depth. Their marketing strategy is completely stupid, but that's a video for another topic. So in the last clip, I said that I agree with the next decision, but since saying that, I'm not really sure.
You what?
There is the issue of freedom of speech with it. What? I know people say, well, you're defending someone's freedom to purposely try to be offensive, and that's kind of horrible. How can you defend that? And I understand that, but the thing about freedom of speech is that the more it is violated, the more it will continue to be violated. First, it will be people purposely trying to be offensive. Then from there, it's not a far step to go get rid of anything that is offensive. It's like, well, who deems what is offensive? What if something is offensive, but it's true? You know, then you can just silence people who you disagree with, even if they're saying something objectively right and something that needs to be said, something that it's not a political opinion, it's just a fact, that they're not looking at it through a political lens, they're looking at it from a scientific lens, that they're understanding the science behind a phenomena. But on the other hand, this is the worst use of freedom of speech that I can think of. Now, since Carlos brought up the shirts, YouTube has decided that they're not going to be running ads on Steven's channel as long as he is using the channel to link to a specific shirt design. On screen here, you can see it says socialism is for figs. The eye is just this little thing that I'll just zoom in here, and it's a picture of a fig. This is a stupid shirt because it's designed to offend people in a way that people go, oh, but it actually says figs. If you want to say socialism is for figs and have a play on it, you should probably make it a lot more obvious instead of having like a tiny little fig be the eye. When people go part and people see it, they're not going to see that tiny detail. They're going to see everything else is in bold. They're going to just see that as a censoring, and what it really says is,
You know.
the whole thing is trying to offend people. And there's, you know, again, in order to be able to, but a shirt that is specifically designed to offend people for the sake of offending people, that's really stupid. I don't think that Steven should be doing that. It completely undermines his credibility to me. I normally really like his series, like his Change My Mind series, and when he's being civil and he's just keeping to points and he's not attacking people, he's very informative. But then he goes and does things like this where he's just trying to stir, and I don't think that YouTube, they're allowed to. It's their platform. They can do what they want. I don't think that they should be, you know, saying, I won't run ads because you're linking to something with your own shirt design, which is trying to offend people. That is a violation of freedom of speech. In the same time, at the same time, I can understand how YouTube doesn't want to be associated with that, and they want to send a clear message that, you know, purposely trying to offend people for the sake of being offensive, something that they're not for, and something that I think that Crowder really shouldn't be doing. Why did you do this? Honestly, I think this situation could have been handled so much better if they were just to sort this out privately, if they were just to reach out to one another. Carlos, attacking YouTube as a platform isn't the answer. I understand that you're frustrated with YouTube since they let this slip through, but you gotta understand, you're dealing with the largest video sharing site in the world. More content is uploaded every second than can be possibly watched. They can't notice everything all the time and address every single thing. Calling out YouTube and saying that it's your problem with YouTube as a platform, it's not fair to the platform, and I can't believe I'm actually defending YouTube as a platform because it's so terrible with the decisions they make, like the new wave of censorship, something that has become as a result of your actions instead of taking things privately. Now there's going to be another wave of censorship. There's possibly a new wave of adpocalypse, and this is hurting everyone in the community, including LGBT creators on the site. Your problem is with what Steven said. Take it up with Steven, because you've hurt so many people in the process, not by your intention, but now you've made it so much harder for everyone on this site who had nothing to do with you. People who are on your side are probably going to be hurt by this. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. Don't do it like this again. Ah, boy. Whoa! This just in! Steven did a video in which he apologizes? Nani? Oh, wait. Oh, it's a fake apology in which he tries to justify his actions. Ah. Steven! As someone who leans slightly right-wing and usually likes to stick up for right-wing independent and outlets and thinkers and whatnot, whenever someone comes along and does something stupid like this and just goes, ha lol, trolling the libtards, like for real, it's embarrassing. You're better than this, Steven. Well, apparently not. And there's some things that have been going on lately that I've been shown of you that just... It's really making it hard to support someone like you. Just stop. You're better than this. Or at least I think you can be. It's time to stop. Stop it. Get some help. Yeah. Subscribe.